Hello everybody, how are you? Today I'm going to be doing my first tag ever. This is the mid-year book Freakout tag. I was tagged by Adam over at MementoMori, and I think this is quite self-explanatory. You've got 15 questions relating to the books you've read in the past 6 months. So let's do this. Question number 1 is the best book you've read so far in 2018. In 2018 I finished reading the collected stories of John Cheever, but maybe it doesn't really count because I started this in 2017. But this is and definitely still will be at the end of the year the best book I read in 2018. Man, this is incredible. Many of these stories are still vivid in my mind, which rarely happens with short stories. But if you want to be picky, I'll choose another book which I actually started and finished in 2018, and that would be The Watch by Rick Bass. Again, another short stories collection, and in this case even a debut. These stories are set all over the USA, from the deep south to Utah and Montana, and it's incredible. The title story is so good. It's about Busby, a 70-year-old man who's lived all his life with his son, who's just 14 years younger than him. So one day Busby gets tired of his son, because it does nothing but talk incessantly. So he runs away, runs into the woods, which are filled with yellow fever mosquitoes, and he basically creates a community there when dozens of women from the village leave their abusive relationships and pitch camp with him in the middle of the Mississippi swamps. Amazing. Question number 2 is best sequel you've read so far in 2018. I've only read 2 sequels in 2018. One of them is The Conqueror by Jan Shasta, which I didn't like at all, so we'll have to go with the other one, which is Winter by Olof Knausgård. But I already talked about the whole Seasons project by Knausgård in my second video, so I won't repeat myself. Question number 3 is new release you haven't read yet but want to, and that has to be Havoc by Tom Christensen. It's one of the latest releases by the New York Review of Books. I think it only came out last week, and it's supposed to be a cult classic in Denmark. It's about a young literary critic who becomes fed up with his wife, his job and his children, and begins drinking 24/7. I think there must be a lot more than that if it's considered a classic of Scandinavian literature, so we'll see. Question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I won't say the last book in the My Struggle series by Knausgård because that's obvious for me, so I will go with My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh. I fell in love with her writing last year when I read her first collection of short stories, which is Homesick for Another World. After that, I read Eileen and then her novella McGlue. I think she's terrific, but I get why she's not everybody's cup of tea, since she likes to write about bodily functions and perversions and body shaming, but that's just life, and she couldn't care less about being politically correct. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment of the year. Can I just skip this one? Just thinking about it is making me itchy. My biggest disappointment was Orhan Pamuk and its Museum of Innocence. I hated this book. It was physically painful to finish it. Not that I had any high hopes coming into this, with Pamuk being a Nobel Prize winner and everything, because I'm always wary of prizes, but I was sure I was going to love this. If you're interested in any way in reading this, just skip ahead, just in case I might give away any spoilers. It's the story of Kemal, a young Turkish entrepreneur who's engaged to Sybil. They're supposed to get married very soon, but then Kemal reconnects with his young cousin Füsun, an 18-year-old shop girl. By the way, he's 30, but anyway. He falls in love with her, and they have this short fling that lasts about a month and a half. And this messes up not only with his plans and his entire life, but messes up with his head really heavily. He ends up not marrying either girl, but he becomes obsessed with his cousin, and he starts collecting objects that remind him of her. And that's not as cute as you may think, trust me. He will spend his time in this apartment where he used to meet Füsun, and an apartment which is now filled with mementos of their love story. It will pick up these objects and puts them into his mouth and sucking on them and rubbing them all over his body, trying to conjure up the feelings and smells of a particular moment. And when this girl finally marries somebody else, he will manage to spend the next 8 bloody years sitting at their table, eating dinner with them and watching TV almost every night, humiliating himself. And nothing happens for real. There's a chapter that did my head in that literally goes like, sometimes Fuzun would go to the refrigerator. Sometimes we would eat eggplants, tomatoes and peppers. Sometimes Fuzun would rise from the table. Sometimes Fuzun would wear the same blouse 2 days in a row. God, just don't mention this book ever again to me. Question number 6 is biggest surprise, and this is a good one. My biggest surprise of the year was An Odyssey, A Father, a Son and an Epic by Daniel Mendelsohn. I enjoyed this book so much. It's a memoir about an Odyssey seminar that Mendelsohn teaches at the college he works for. But what makes it unique is that his father, J. Mendelsohn, an 80-year-old scientist, decides to attend the seminar to see what all the fuss is about and to try to understand how his son could devote his life to something as abstract as literature, especially that of ancient Greece. So the first part of the book is focused on the actual seminar with the discussions that arise in the classroom as they travel with Odysseus, while the second part of the book is focused on this cruise that father and son go on that retraces Odysseus' voyage in the Mediterranean. And as the book goes on, you realize that there are a lot of echoes between the poem and the Mendelssohn's family story. It's really a great memoir that made me feel like reading Homer properly. Question number 7 is favorite new author. I think I'll go with Gabe Habash. His debut novel, Stephen Florida, is actually the first book I read this year, and it was incredible. It's the story of Stephen, a manic obsessive college student and aspiring wrestler who will go to any length to achieve his goal of winning the season and be remembered. And being in his head was such an uncomfortable experience, but at the same time, I can't wait to reread this book and to read Habash's next work. The paperback has been released earlier this month, so make sure to check it out because it's really, really good. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. First of all, I don't have crushes. I develop unhealthy obsessions, and there's a big difference between the two. I will idealize you to the extent that it doesn't even matter who you are because I will turn you into somebody completely different in my mind. But one of the requirements is that I need to be able to stalk you. So you need to be real and on social media for me to do that. So that answers the question. Question number 9, newest favorite character, Stephen Florida, hands down. Question number 10 is saddest book you've read. I think I'll go with Something I've Been Meaning to Tell You by Alice Munro. I love the stifling and melancholic atmosphere of 1950s Canada with long winters and somber landscapes. She always gets to me. I can't wait to pick her up again soon. Question number 11, a book that made you happy. What? I'm not interested in books that make you happy. No thanks. Question number 12, best book to film adaptations you saw this year. I think I only watched 4 adaptations this year and none of them would classify as a favorite. I actually watched Based on a True Story by Roman Polanski last night, which is based on Delphine de Vigons's novel of the same name, and I did not like the film. Hopefully it'll go better with The Night of the Hunter because I'm really loving the book. Question number 13, best video you've done so far this year. Come on, really? This is only my 4th video. And I wasn't even counting to get to this point, so I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. Question number 14, most beautiful book you've bought this year, and that would be The Changeling by Joy Williams. This is the 40th anniversary edition, and it's really nice. It has a wolf and a doe on the cover. This makes me sound really basic. Whatever, it's a hardback and it feels really good. Last question, books you need to read by the end of the year. What are you, my mother? There are 2 new authors I'd like to get to. They are Barry Hannah and Edward St. Aubyn with the Patrick Melrose series. And I'd love to read more Updike, more Cheever, more Murdoch, obviously, more Muriel Spark, more Joyce Carol Oates, and a bunch of new releases from Italy. Yeah, whatever strikes my fancy. I guess I'll have to tag people now. I'll tag Celia and Monse from Monse's Manifesto, and Conrad from 7 Days at Sea, and Agnes from Beyond the Epilogue, and everybody really. Mel, Britta, and Richard, get back on Booktube. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.